So some folks might be surprised about Bernie Sanders' ascent, especially since socialism has been a cuss word in these United States for such a long time. Bernie Sanders has removed the trepidation for folks calling themselves socialists for a long time, or for right now. In fact, I've always considered myself a social anarchist or anarcho-socialist. Give me socialism or else. Essentially, if the government isn't helping us, then what the fuck are they doing? Okay? So that's exciting. Glenn Beck actually was warning everybody 8 years ago when Barack Obama was about to be elected, socialism's coming. Everybody watch out. Socialism's coming. Then, in a way, Glenn Beck was right, but it wasn't coming from Obama, who, ran this country like a right-wing Wall Street crony imperialist capitalist whose signature piece of legislation, Obamacare, was a total capitulation. Obamacare, which was a total capitulation to the insurance industry, since we're forced to buy private health care or else we're fined. The public option, single payer, would have been much better. But that's socialism is going to come from Bernie Sanders, which was a little-known senator from Vermont. Now, I've been paying attention to him for quite some time. He's always been wonderful, awesome, but now the American people are just starting to get introduced to him. Who's the hell, who's this old man? So to see how popular socialism is, all we have to do is look for the 1848 revolutions. In the 1848 revolutions, socialism spread like wildfire. Karl Marx pens the Communist Manifesto, and then bam, 50 countries. 50 countries explode in revolution. It's the only historical event that was even remotely close to the Arab Spring and to the Occupy movement. Times were much worse back then. It was Grimm's fairy tales, okay? That's, the 1840s, where everybody's poor. There's danger around everywhere. Think Hansel and Gretel. The brother and sister whose their own mother, took them out into the woods, snipe hunting, just to leave them stranded since there wasn't enough bread in their home. So their own mother thought it was better to abandon her own kids in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and not starve herself. So a little bit about the 1848 revolutions. They were also called the Spring of Nations, the People's Spring, the springtime of the peoples, the year of the revolution. I like the springtime of nations. It's the springtime of nations. This is when the people started realizing that, why the fuck are we all being oppressed? But it wasn't coordinated. It was just, spontaneous. 1848 revolutions were a series of political upheavals throughout Europe in 1848. It remains the most widespread revolutionary wave in European history, but reactionary forces regained control in each case, and the revolutions collapsed typically within the year. The revolutions were essentially democratic in nature, with the aim of removing the old feudal structures and creating independent national states. The revolutionary wave began in France in February 1848 and immediately spread to most of Europe and parts of Latin America. Over 50 countries were affected. 50 countries! But there is no coordination or cooperation between their respective revolutionaries. 6 factors were involved: widespread dissatisfaction with the political leadership, demands for more participation in government and democracy, the 6 major reasons they didn't like the political leadership. They wanted more participation in government, they wanted more democracy, demands for freedom of the press, demands of the working class, more money, the upsurge of nationalism, were French, were Germans, were Italians, and finally the regrouping of the reactionary forces based on the royalty, aristocracy, the army, the church, and the peasants. Okay, so that 6 factors were involved. That's what had happened. Dissatisfaction with the political leadership, more democracy, more freedom of the press, demands of working classes. So, the inequality is bullshit, get rid of the feudal structures, and the upsurge of nationalism. So the uprisings were led by a shaky ad hoc coalition of reformers, the middle classes and workers, which did not hold together for long. Tens of thousands of people were killed and many more forced into exile. So the springtime of nations, the year of revolution, 1848. There's tens of thousands of people were killed. Significant lasting reforms include the included the abolition of serfdom in Austria and Hungary, the end of absolute monarchy in Denmark, introduction of parliamentary democracy in the Netherlands, and the definitive end of the Capetian monarchy in France. The revolutions were most important in France, Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Italy, and the Austrian Empire. Okay, so the Communist Manifesto, which was written by Karl Marx, was published in late February 1848. So I guess France's revolution began in February 1848, the same month that Karl Marx published his publications. And so between the Communist Manifesto and the revolution in France, so to check out how this list is, something about like every time I put on my hat like all cockeyed like that, it's really, well, when I was chewing my tobacco down by the creek, and I was digging up the tomatoes and the potatoes and the goddamn corn, fucking Billy Bob and the turkeys just came out from out of nowhere. Had to. So the 1848 revolutions. The 1848 revolutions were spectacular. Okay, check out this list. I got 15 seconds. The Italian states, Hungary, Denmark, Netherlands, France, German states. Then you have the Austrian Empire, Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, the Danubian Principalities, Belgium, Ireland, Serbia, Portugal. Then you had Colombia. So 1848 in Hungary and Italian states, actually, the first outbreak happened in the Italian states, in Sicily, in January 1848, but it was little noticed. But I guarantee you the French revolutionaries knew what was going on in Sicily. So the 1848 revolutions actually started in Sicily in January in 1948. Then you had Hungary, and that has to do with the Habsburg Empire in Galicia, which is divided today by the Ukraine and Poland. Galicia. And so Hungary, it actually was successful in some regards because the serfs were freed. Hungary freed the serfs. It started March 15th. Hungarian patriots organized mass demonstrations in Pest and Buda, which is called Budapest today, forced the imperial governor to accept the 12 points of demands. Hungarian revolutions had 12 points of demands, which included the demand for freedom of press and independent Hungarian ministry residing in Budapest, responsible to a popularly elected parliament, the formation of a national guard, complete civil and religious equality, trial by jury, a national bank, a Hungarian army, the withdrawal of foreign troops from Hungary, Austrian troops, the freeing of political prisoners, and the union with Transylvania, which is what Kentucky was going to be called, Transylvania. On that morning, the demands were read out loud along with poetry by Sandor Petőfi, with the simple lines of, "We swear by the God of the Hungarians, we swear, we shall be slaves no more." Denmark, the end of absolute monarchy happens in Denmark. There was a Schleswig problem, some revolutions. The National Liberal Movement wanted to abolish absolutism but retain a strongly centralized state. The king accepted a new constitution agreeing to share power with a bicameral parliament called the Riksdag. Although army officers were dissatisfied, they accepted the new arrangement, which, in contrast to the rest of Europe, was not overturned by the reactionaries, like your fucking Mitch McConnells. The Netherlands, that was, the Netherlands, France, Denmark, the Italian states. I mean, revolutions happened all over the place. And France was a big imperialist country, so when it happened in France, it was like, oh shit, that's pretty big. The Capetian monarchy was ended. It ended the constitutional monarchy of Louis Philippe, led to the creation of the Second Republic. This government was headed by Louis Napoleon, who, after only 4 years, established the Second French Empire in 1852. Alexis de Tocqueville remarked in his recollections of the period, society was cut in two, those who had nothing united in common envy, those who had nothing united in common envy, and those who had anything united in common terror. So it was the haves versus the have-nots. Those who had nothing said, come on, let's go fuck them up. And those who had something said, no way, let's unite and go after them bastards. The German states, you had Italy was just like the German states. There wasn't one German state, but like a bunch of little Italian-speaking states. So 39 independent German-speaking states of the German Confederation, the middle class and the working class components of the revolution split. Fucking middle class have got to get to the poor. They've got to be able to speak to the poor. When you split, united we stand, divided we fall. Class and the working class split of the revolution. In the end, the conservative aristocracy defeated it, forcing many liberals into exile. King Frederick William IV of Prussia unilaterally imposed a monarchist constitution to undercut the democratic forces. When they offered him the constitution that they had written, he says, how dare you sons of bitches? I do not want a crown from the gutter. You know, because he's a stuck-up piece of shit. This Constitution took effect on December 5th, 1848. Otto von Bismarck was elected to the first Landtag, elected under the new monarchical Constitution, and thusly begins the rise of Otto von Bismarck, who eventually united the 39 German-speaking countries. The Austrian Empire from March 1848 through July 1849. The Habsburg Austrian Empire was threatened by many revolutionary movements. Sicily, we got Denmark, we got Germany, we got Austria. From March 1848 to July 1849, you had many revolutionary movements in the Austrian Empire, though often had a nationalist character. So lots of different nations, because the empire, which was ruled through Vienna, you know, which is Austria's little tiny bitty country. But it included Austrians, Hungarians, Slovenes, Poles, Czechs, Croats, Slovaks, Ukrainians / Ruthenians, Romanians, Serbs, and Italians. So 11 different nationalities, and, you know, eventually they'll, you know, the Czech Republic, the Polish Republic, Slovenia, Hungary. Look at all these, you know, future countries, Romanians, Ukrainians, Slovakians, Croatians. This, you know, the springtime of nations, the Germans, the French, the springtime of nations, revolutions in Hungary, Denmark, Netherlands, France, the German states, the Austrian Empire, Sweden, in Scandinavia, Switzerland, it experienced civil war, Poland, Greater Poland, the area around Poland, fought against Prussia, which is the Nazis before the Nazi Germany, before the Nazis. The Danubian principalities in Belgium. Karl Marx was expelled from Brussels in early March. Remember, he wrote the Communist Manifesto in late February, after the Sicily Revolution, after the French Revolution, before all these other revolutions. In Belgium, he was expelled from Brussels in early March on accusations of having used part of his inheritance to arm Belgian revolutionaries. Karl Marx lost a bunch of his kids. He understood what it meant to be poor. Of course he's going to be arming Belgium, Italy, Hungary, Denmark, Netherlands, German states, Austrian Empire, Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, Danubian principalities, Belgium, Ireland. You had the Young Irelander Rebellion, the Young Irelanders, also known as the Famine Rebellion, because it was during the Irish potato famine. So the potato famine rebellion happened in 1848, was deliberately orchestrated by wealthy capitalists who'd rather throw away good food instead of providing food to the starving Irish peoples. That's just like the Oklahoma Dust Bowls and that the Jodes and that one movie. Side note, Bill O'Reilly says he was going to move to Ireland if Bernie Sanders gets elected. He's going to move to Ireland if Bernie Sanders gets elected. In Ireland, there's universal health care and free college. What a fucking hypocrite. The Austrian Empire, that included the Austrians, the Hungarians, Slovenes, Poles, Czechs, Croatians, the Slovaks, Ukrainians, Ruthenians, Romanians, Serbs, Italians. You had Sweden, Switzerland, Poland, Belgium, Ireland, Serbia. These are where revolutions happened in 1848. In Serbia, feudalism was abolished. So no more feudalism. They freed the Serbs in Hungary. Now feudalism is abolished In 1838, and the power of the Serbian prince was reduced with the Turkish constitution. Portugal had experienced civil war just a year prior. Other English-speaking lands, the main impact in United States was a massive wave of immigration. So from Germany and from Ireland, Irish potato famine, the failed revolutionaries, boom, come over to America. There was a lot of 1848ers in America, and that's what they called them, the 1848ers. Now you're going to have the 1855 Know-Nothing riots, which are going to happen in Cincinnati, Louisville, I want to say Baltimore, the Know-Nothing riots. They are saying Donald Trump is like a know-nothing, the American Party, know-nothing, you know, the downfall of the Whigs, and he's the one riding the know-nothing, the anti-immigrants. That's what the Know-Nothing Party represented. They hated the Catholics, they hated the Germans, they hated the Irish. They said Pope Pius IX was responsible for the revolutions, the 1848 revolution's failure. So, Pope Pius, you could suck my dick, you fucking low-life piece of shit. I know you're dead from a long time ago, but Pope Pius, you piece of low-life fucking piece of crap, not only was he responsible for the 1848 revolution's failure, he was also continuing to endorse slavery in opposition to the abolition laws in the North. Pius IX was against the abolition laws in America and the abolition laws in the British Empire in 1838. So Pope Pius, what a low-life piece of shit. And that sucks, too, because you got the Pope, which is kind of a fucking dick, and then you got these German and Irish Catholics that are looking for freedom. But apparently there is no freedom around the WASP, White Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Excuse me. In Canada, they had another revolution, and it was peaceful in 1848, but the reactionaries eventually burned down the fucking parliament. So in 1848 in Canada, they saw the establishment of responsible government in Nova Scotia, and the Canadas, the first such governments in the British Empire outside of Great Britain itself. John Ralston Saul has argued that this development is tied to the revolution. Described the Canadian approach to the Revolutionary Year of 1848 as taking their way out of the empire's control system and into a new democratic model. Canada, you know, they were the winners of the War of 1812, said fuck you to Henry Clay and Andrew Jackson, even though, you know, fucking in 1814 we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans. Something, something, town New Orleans. Okay, so there's a stable democratic system which has lasted to the present day. So this 1848 model, new democratic model outside of the British Empire's control is the model that they use today. Tory Orange Order in Canada tried to, you know, get pissed off with the riot. Tory and the Orange Order in Canada opposition to responsible government came to a head in riots triggered by the Rebellion Losses Bill in 1849. The reactionaries, your Mitch McConnell fucking, you know, obstructionist, low-life pieces of shit, they succeeded in the burning of the Parliament buildings in Montreal, but unlike their counter-revolutionary counterparts in Europe, they were ultimately unsuccessful. We need a new deal. That's what Bernie Sanders is going to do, a new deal, a new deal, a double new deal. In New Granada in Spanish Latin America, the revolution of 1848 appeared in New Granada, present-day Colombia. So you had Colombian students, liberals, and intellectuals demanding the election of General Jose Hilario Lopez. He took power in 1849, launched major reforms, abolished. So General Jose Hilario Lopez, he took power in 1848, launched major reforms. He abolished slavery, abolished the death penalty, and providing freedom of the press and of religion. The resulting turmoil in Colombia lasted 4 decades from 1851 to 1885. The country was ravaged by 4 general civil wars and 50 local revolutions. In Brazil, the Praia Revolt, a movement in Pernambuco, lasted from November 1848 to 1852. Unresolved conflicts left over from the period of the Regency and local resistance to the consolidation of the Brazilian Empire that had been proclaimed in 1822 helped to plant the seeds of the revolution. So Brazil, New Granada, Colombia, Italy, Germany, Canada. It had effects here in America with those damn German Irish Catholics, right? So Democrats looked to 1848 as a democratic revolution, which in the long run ensured liberty, equality, and fraternity. Marxists denounced 1848 as a betrayal of working class ideals by a bourgeoisie indifferent to the legitimate demands of the proletariat. For nationalists, 1848 was the springtime of hope when newly emerging nationalities rejected the old multinational empires. They were all bitterly disappointed in the short run. In the post-revolutionary decade after 1848, little had visibly changed, and most historians considered the revolutions a failure given the seeming lack of permanent structural changes. Nevertheless, there were a few immediate successes for some revolutionary movements, notably in the Habsburg lands. Austria and Prussia eliminated feudalism by 1850. No feudalism in Austria and Prussia, improving the lot of the peasants and middle classes made political and economic gains over the next 20 years. France retained universal male suffrage. Russia would later free the serfs, February 19th, 1861. So worldwide, revolution, 1848. And then America had a revolution in 1861, the same time when Russia freed the serfs. The Habsburgs finally had to give the Hungarians more self-determination in the Augsburg. 1867, the revolutions inspired lasting reform in Denmark as well as the Netherlands and Chile. The 1848 revolutions inspired the 1851 Chilean Revolution. The Texas Hill Country was settled by German intellectuals fleeing the reactionary purges. German Texans. A century later, the first U.S. president from the region, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, would enact major U.S. civil rights legislation. So, Germans, Irish, New Granada,